What's up, Press? How's it
Yeah.
doing? Hope you guys stayed safe through the night and everything. It seems like when a lot of people talk about the Bears defense, they talk about how much they've improved since they got Montez Sweat. What is it just about him as a player that can maybe have that kind of effect and kind of just change the complexion of a defense?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, played against him when he got into Washington in the NFC East when we were in Philadelphia. Tons of length. He's got a variety of pass rush moves, but he's able to affect the quarterback. And then what he's done really well since he's been there is take the football away. And that's something they do really well as a defense. I spent a year with Coach Eberflus in Indianapolis as well, and he preaches it. I mean, watching him practice, the way they go after the football, calls it their shots on goal, that type of stuff. Like that is something that they've been very good at from his time as a defense coordinator across the league. So Montez Sweat's just another guy that adds to that. Honestly, they do a great job in coverage. So now providing another dangerous pass rush element on top of how they play in the back end and how well they defend the pass. Obviously, that's a challenge for us.
Sweet. And last one for me. I know obviously in pass protection, a lot is talked about offensive tackles, but how's the interior offensive line play? It just seems like numbers wise, they're playing pretty well in pass pro, especially Ezra.
Right, they've done a good job, and they've had some tough matchups. I mean, we feel like Grover Stewart from the Colts is, as good as a lot of these interior pass rush guys, just players in general, as there was. So to do what they did against him as well, that's hats off to them. But in this league, what you did last week doesn't matter. So it's about continuing to show up and perform and do your job at the highest level.
Thanks, Press.
Go Mia, followed by Gary.
I didn't even put the two and two together that you did spend the year with Flus in Indy. How have you seen his play calling tendencies, his defense, similar, different, evolved between when he was there, when you guys were in Indy to where he is now?
Yeah, I got a chance to work with a lot of that staff that went with him to the Bears. I think they were a little bit more of the cover two, Rod Marinelli, Monty Kiffin that he kind of grew up in, probably in Indy, and they've evolved a little bit more. There's a little bit more single high. There's still varieties of shell, whether it's two, four, quarter, half, all the different things they play. So you see a little bit of that, but you also see the prototypes he's looking for, the linebacker mold that he looks for, and then as they built the defensive end into these, kind of the old school monsters of the midway, just big guys. And then you're starting to see a little bit of prototype, at least in the back end with the safeties too. So you've kind of watched him develop the identity of this defense and the fits the mold of what he's really looking for as a defense coordinator.
And as for you guys, in terms of run success, I'm sure, it's been a talking point in the building as much as it's been outside the building. Tanks usage, the run game in general. I think you guys are still 16th in total attempts when it comes to running the football. How would you evaluate where that run game still has room to grow?
Oh, well, I think it's like anything. We're going to evolve as the season goes, and every game is different based on the matchups, the presentation from the defense. Are they playing man? Are they playing zone? Are they a high pressure team? Whatever they may be. But also the game script dictates a lot of how you're going to play. We were very efficient on first and second down the other day, able to kind of stay in those manageable, normal down and distance situations where, some games we've been behind and you end up throwing the ball a lot more, or you're not as efficient on first down. You're in a lot of these second long situations where, a 4-yard run may not be as beneficial to you on second and 10 as, say, second and 5. So there's a lot of those situations where I thought we were just very efficient with whatever we did, whether it was the quick pass game, the screen game we had the other day against the Colts as well. Just staying on track, and then it helps you want to stick with the run game because it was honestly it was a grimy run game. We had two big runs that kind of broke it open and set our numbers, but for the most part, I just thought we were pretty efficient. There weren't a lot of pretty ones. Tank kind of made that one happen late in the game. And then, the 19-yard touchdown. Now that was great. It lined up well for us. They were in a shell coverage. We were in a bigger set. We did a great job getting the run started, and then everybody just did a great job finishing the run. That was the cool part to see about that particular play. But other than that, it was 2 yards here, 3 yards here, maybe 4 yards here, and it just kind of, but we were able to stick with it and finally break off those two big ones late.
Gary, followed by D-Rock.
Your press says Brenton exceeded expectations, or did you kind of expect this from him if you had to use him a lot based on the fact that he had a pretty good camp?
Yeah, we've always thought Brenton could be an impact player for our offense. Obviously he's behind another very good tight end in Evan, and Evan has taken advantage of his role. He's last season he was one of 5 tight ends in NFL history to have as many catches as he did. So It's a crowded room in terms of we have a lot of really good players in there. So we certainly expected when Brenton had more opportunity, he would be able to produce, and that's been true. Now it's on all of us to make sure that we're continuing every single week to maximize the matchups we have. If that's involving multiple tight ends and a certain look to get a certain thing out of a defense, then that's what we'll try to do. But like I mentioned earlier, each week's its own beast. And so, how are they going to play 12 personnel? How do you play 12 personnel with Evan on the field? There's all these different things you're kind of looking into. And then what does it give us? Does it give us an advantage in some way, shape, or form? Then we'll try to lean into that a little more. And then how's the game going as it affects itself? But yeah, Brenton's done a great job. He's proved that he can handle whatever workload comes each week.
Thank you.
D-Rock,
Hey, Press, this might be some recency bias, but it does seem like rookie receivers are having a little easier time, I guess, making a bigger impact in the league over the last, maybe 10 years than maybe 15, 20 years ago. Why do you think that might be?
I think just obviously the game is heading more towards a passing league. I think that's true to say. Numbers, the average number of yards per quarterback and stuff like that is now you have everybody throwing over 4,000 each season, where that was not as commonplace back in the day. I think part of that's just the way these kids grow up now. I mean, these kids grow up playing 7-on-7 forever. So they've seen all these coverage, they've seen all these route concepts to where there's not as much surprising them or overwhelming them early in their careers. But at the same time, I think it's a credit to the kids that come out. Like they're able to handle a lot. Brian, you'd never know it, but Brian plays multiple positions throughout the course of a game for us. He and Gabe and Christian are constantly changing who they are in the huddle. And that's something nobody would ever notice, but it gives us so much flexibility as a coaching staff to be able to kind of shrink the play call because we can just handle it with personnel grouping. So, but that's a credit to our guys. You can't put that on everybody all the time. It confuses people. It slows down their processing where, with Brian, he hasn't missed a beat in terms of that he's the Z, this plays the X, that play, and there may be a handful he plays the F for us. So that's just a credit to him. But I think a lot of these kids now just come up having thrown the ball a lot more, having run a lot more concepts through summer, obviously in their college and high school careers as well.
Is the next step for Brian kind of figuring out how to handle it when teams try to take him away or make it a focal point to take him away?
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge for all as that comes in his career. It's on all of us to put him in the best possible position for him to be able to execute with that. I think that's probably more so a quarterback coordinator type answer for you, I guess, of, making sure that you have an effective player that can't get taken away by a certain thing. Now, I think we benefit from having a lot of really good skill players. So if you're going to commit resources to doubling a certain receiver, well, we feel like we have the ability ideally to run the ball if you're playing shell coverages and things like that, and you're giving us a light box. Two, now we have another matchup. We get an opportunity to attack where you don't have as much help over the top possibly. So that's something that certainly that's a good problem to have if you have a really good player and teams have to commit multiple resources to covering them and stopping them and taking them out of the game.
Thank you.
that's everyone. Thanks, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you guys.